of light. Shalom, shalom, shalom. YOSHSHAAILA. This is Yermiyah, YOSHSHAAILA Benyahrael, and this is Real Talk. I'm doing a video based on the misinformation concerning the false doctrines that are being taught on more than one wife. 2, while we must not try to build anything here in the land of our captivity, the land of our enemies, but what we need to do, more importantly, is be ready to leave, preparing for our exodus. I'm going to read out of the book of Leviticus chapter 26, and I'm starting at verse 14, and it says, "But if you do not obey me, and do not carry out all these commandments, if instead you reject my statutes, and if your soul abhors my ordinance, so as not to carry out all my commandments, and so break my covenant, I in turn will do this to you. I will appoint over you a sudden terror, consumption and fever that shall waste away the eyes and cause the soul to pine away. Also you shall sow your seeds usually, for your enemy shall eat it up." So he said you should sow your seed and your enemy shall eat it up. "I will set my face against you so that you shall be struck down before your enemies, and those who hate you shall rule over you, and you shall flee when none is pursuing you. If also after these things you do not obey me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. And I also break down your pride of power. I will also make your sky like iron and your earth like bronze. And your strength shall be spent uselessly, for your land shall not yield its produce, and the trees of the land shall not yield their fruit." Now, the reason why I read this, and I really want to focus on 15 through 17, "If instead you reject my statutes, and if your soul abhors my ordinance, so as not to carry out all my commandments, and so break my covenant, I in return will do this to you." And what he said he would do to us, verse 17, "I will set my face against you so that you shall be struck down before your enemies, and those who hate you shall rule over you, and you shall flee when none is pursuing you." This is Leviticus chapter 26. Penalties of disobedience. Now I want to go, and I just want to briefly go over some things that I wrote down, dealing with the penalties. The shooting of unarmed Israelites. Former college football star Jonathan Farrell, North Carolina, Charlotte, 2013. Car broke down. He went to a person's house to get help. When he saw the police, he went towards the police, and they shot him 5 times. Ernesto Dunez Jr., shot by police in front of his yard. Police claimed he had a weapon, but family said he didn't. Unarmed man. Glenn Broadneck in New York City, who was mentally ill. The police was trying to shoot him, and instead shot 2 innocent bystanders, trying to kill and assassinate Broadneck while there was a crowd of people out there. Fruitville, not once but twice, but Fruitville, the most infamous one that we all know about, because they made a movie about it, shot the young man at the train station. Then they shot another young man who was fleeing them because he didn't pay $2, shot him and killed him. You have Renisha McBride, 2013, shot in the back of the head. That car broke down, was trying to get help. Then you had 2012, Everett, who was shot at his apartment complex by a white man in the head. White man shot him for really no apparent reason other than the fact that he was annoyed by him and thought that all black people should be dead. 2013, Darius Simmons, who was shot and killed by a 70-something-year-old white man. Marshall Carter, who was shot and killed by a white man. He was unarmed. 2013. 2011, Alfred Wright, which is the man who was dragged by the white kids, beat up white kids. No, dragged by his neck, he was killed, I believe, Alfred Wright was. James Craigie Anderson from Mississippi, 2011, was beat down by some young white boys and killed. Charles Corley, 2010, in Delaware, was found hung. And the list goes on and on and on and on. We can go and look at the case of the young man that was handcuffed in the back of the car seat, shot in the back of the head. We can go and look at the case of the black men that were in New York City on his night of his bachelor party, who was killed by police. We can go and look at hundreds and hundreds of thousands of, and there's literally hundreds of thousands of our people who have been murdered in this country from 1980 to now by police officers and did not have weapons on them and pose no threats. Not to mention the killings of our people by other nationalities. The Chinese woman who killed the young girl who she thought was stealing. Actually, the girl had the money in her hand, and as the young girl threw the drink back on the ground because she was mad because the Korean lady thought she was stealing. As she was walking out the door, the Korean woman shot her in the back of the head. The young man who was killed for playing his music too loud. The young 7-year-old child who was shot in the face. I mean, the list goes on and on. The elderly woman who was shot and killed in her house by police who came in with no warrant. The young man, teenager who was killed in his house when the police came in and kicked the door with no warrant and shot and killed him. On and on and on. Case after case. White people killing black children. Other nationalities killing black children. Israelites. And you have a lot of mores, priests, so-called teachers of this Israelite community telling us that we are to stay in a very hostile place, the most hostile place in the world. We're being told by these leaders of these Israelite groups to stay put. Why would anyone tell their people to stay in a place where they are constantly being targets, being murdered, being raped, and no justice is being done to them? In the courts, nowhere. Where is the intelligence of staying here? When, let's not look at the killing of our people, let's look at the fact that our water is polluted. And look at the fact that they spray chemtrails throughout the black community because the chemicals that they're spraying in the black communities, as Dick Gregory explained in his full-length Too Few Know video, how they're spraying chemtrails into the black community. The chemicals causes the population in that community or area to become very hostile. This is the crime rate is linked to the pollution that is being dumped into those areas where those Israelites live. The food that we eat, the animal products that we eat are being pumped with different chemicals. The children, when they are born in the hospital, every mother who has a child knows that your child has a soft spot on the top of their head. Well, you know that scientists and doctors can go right into that soft spot and inject something into the child's brain to change the child's character as it develops. They can cause a child to be mentally retarded. They can cause a child to be hostile because they know the mechanisms of the brain. They know what part of the brain controls what part of your functions. Whether it controls the movement of your arms and legs, your eyes, your sexual desires. It can make you more promiscuous. It can make you homosexual. All these things because they have studied the brain. So the brain is the main engine, the computer inside of our bodies that control all of our functions and our emotions. If I can alter someone's emotion by just simply going into your brain and tapping into your brain and cause you to cause the part of your brain that reacts to certain situations that person who is normally confronted with these situations would not be so hostile, but will handle them in a correct manner. But if I alter that part that will cause you not to be hostile and alter it to make you more hostile, then what I have done is made puppets out of men. Or should I say, puppets out of people. I can make you act the way I want you to act, and then make the whole world believe that you are a hostile race of people. When it was me who orchestrated the whole thing because your mothers brought you into my hospitals, knowing that I never wanted you in my hospitals, I never wanted you in my restaurants, I never wanted you in my schools. But because you were so persistent, which also was our idea, using your so-called leaders to make you want to segregate with us and come to our stores so we could take your dollars out of your community and put them in our stores and the foreigners that were rising up in your community and make them more rich and make us less wealthy and deplete all of our resources and giving them over to others, which was the whole plan of segregation, along with getting the black man out the home to take care of the prison population by filling them with young, delinquent young men who are already being raised by women. If I can make puppets out of men, then I'm going to do so in order to control a race of people to do my bidding. See, Willie Lynch went so far in details of how to control us that those who came after him just took it a step further. Eugenics, Planned Parenthood, all those come from the same thing, all targeting our people to destroy our people. 13 million Israelite children were aborted between 1970 and right now. 13 million. There's more people died in the Holocaust. There's more people that died, and we know the Holocaust and when that many people that died, like they say this, but just going by what they say, more people that died in the Holocaust, more people that died in the Atlantic slave trade on the way over here to the places where our ancestors went to do service for these wicked people. Just between 1970 and right now, we have had more of our people die than any other time in history and more than any other people in history, just by abortion alone. And yet, we don't see the connection to the fact that our enemy is behind us. He's a puppet master. He makes slaves out of men. So, we are living in a country where if we do not leave, we will become extinct. Because they're not going to stop killing us. They're not going to stop poisoning us. They're not going to stop locking us up. They're not going to stop having our young women abort their children. They're not going to stop. So why do we stay here? The president of Uganda, Yermiyah, he signed a bill that bans same-sex marriages. And anyone that is homosexual, he will arrest them. The United States had a problem with that, and so did other countries. But the fact that he done this shows that he's keeping the commandments of the Most High. And what most of us don't know is the fact that a lot of the presidents of those African countries, so-called African countries, are forcing the white people who are living there to give up their farmlands. They are forcing the Muslims out of there. And they are apologizing to the so-called African Americans, the Israelites, for their forefathers, their ancestors' role in slavery. And to show good favor to us and show sincereness to us, they have dedicated parts of their land for the returnees of the children who were born, who were sold into slavery. They have donated land, rich parts of land. And in Ghana, a lot of Israelites have already left here. A lot of so-called African Americans have already left here and are now living in places like Ghana, Uganda, Nigeria, Egypt. Places where the crime rate and murder rate is nothing compared to what goes on here. There are 6 places in Africa, so-called Africa, where they have no crime rate, no murder rate. Some places in the world only have a murder once every year. And we have a murder every half a second of our people. We are targeted, we are abused, we are dehumanized, and we're being eradicated, slowly but surely, because those who are leaders of our people have taught us to just accept abuse, to accept to be considered 3/5 of a human being, to accept the killing of our young men and women by police officers without any just cause. They haven't taught us to stand up and fight. They told us to take our guns and turn them in for a $100 gift certificate, while the white people are going to the gun stores and buying guns off the shelf. They can't even keep the guns in the white community on the shelves long enough because they're buying so much. But our leaders, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, and all these other so-called Negro leaders and pastors of churches are telling us to disarm yourselves, while the white folks are arming themselves. They passed a law that only helps white people. Stand your ground. So when a black man who served in the military stood his ground and shot a man, he got sentenced to prison. When a black woman who fired a gun in her house to scare off her abusive boyfriend, the same time Zimmerman killed, or so-called killed Trayvon, she got, I think, about 30-something years while he walked scot-free. Where's the justice in that? We will never, ever, ever have justice in this country. We will never see our sons go to court and have their peer group be inside of that courtroom as a jury. The jury is rigged. Your peer group, if I'm 22 years old, my peer group do not consist of a 50-year-old man or a 40-year-old man or a 30-year-old man. My peer group will consist of those who are in the same age range as me who live in the same conditions or was brought up in the same conditions as I, who've been to the same type of educational system as I was raised and taught and brought up. Not some white man that live in a rich suburban area who hates black people and has a doctorate degree and I have a GED. What kind of justice am I going to get from a jury like that? When they are biased against me anyway, they don't come from my neighborhood, they don't come from my school system, they don't come from my age range, so how could they justify, how can they righteously judge me and give me a righteous judgment in the court system with a peer group that is not of my own? Our peer group is of your own. That's why I call it your peer group. You have a right to a jury of your peers. That is the Constitution. Why don't we have a right to a jury of our peers? Because we're not citizens. We have never been citizens. They just let us believe we are. Because if we were citizens, we have rights as a citizen to due process, to a jury of our peers, to defend ourselves. But we don't have those rights because we're not citizens. And we have never been citizens. We have to have people in Congress and Senate to sign a bill every so often that we don't go back into slavery. It's a bill that has to be signed to keep us from going back into slavery. You got a white man walking around with a legal license to kill niggas in their wallets. Why do you think that white people who are, quote unquote, called Klan members or skinheads can be deputized if there's a civil unrest? Why is it that they always deputize these farm white dudes who we know are skinheads and Klan members? They get deputized whenever there's civil unrest to go into a black community. And we got our so-called leaders telling us to bow down and pray to a blue-eyed Jesus. This is slavery. This is a mockery of intelligence of a people. But yet we allow it. Now our children out here now, what are they doing? They listen to Lil Wayne, Beyonce, they listen to Nicki Minaj, who are all puppets of the industry by the Jewish Zionist Party, promoting homosexuality amongst the women and men of our people, the sons and daughters of our people, to feminize our men so that they will never have the spirit to fight. But it's not just them promoting it through the music. They already have done it by altering their minds to think in a way which is unnatural, because they have already done it to our children while our children were inside those hospitals, when they were taking them away from our mothers and taking away from their mothers into those rooms to examine them. They stuck something inside their brain to alter that part of the brain that would not have you think that being a homosexual was right, but they stuck something into their brain that changed and altered their mind to think that it is. It altered their thinking. So it altered their sexual preference. This is by design. This is by design. Most of our people do not understand this because we don't think on a level of a spiritual level. We think on a carnally, fleshy level. You don't know your enemy. And your enemy is always those who can fit in right with you, because they've been taught by their slave masters what to do. Slave masters don't have to go in. He'll send his overseers, those who look like you, come from you, but not of you. So with all this being said, the reason why the scripture said in the last days 7 women would take hold of one man, and in that day it would be fruitful, it would be a blessing. The reason why it says in Isaiah chapter 4 that 7 women would take hold to one man is for the fact that a lot of the young men are becoming feminized. And because their minds have been altered to believe that they were born that way, and then they have accepted it, then you're losing a lot of your men that you will have to reproduce. Not only are you losing them to that, you're losing them to homicides, black on black crime, or Israelite crime. You're losing them to other nationalities killing us. You're losing them to the prison system. And when they go into these prison systems, all the medicines that they're pumping in them inside the food is sterilizing them. You're losing them to diseases. So when you look at the ratio of how many women there is to every man, in Atlanta, Georgia, some estimate that it's 22 women to every man because majority of men out there are homosexuals. Baltimore, Maryland, they have a high rate of HIV amongst the black men. They say 2 out of 3 is HIV positive, to the point where though they say Baltimore and Washington should be quarantined off. They said this a couple of years ago because of the epidemic of HIV. So, in the end, you have these Israelite men, the righteous men that are being raised up to be judges, to be counselors, to be rulers of their homes, the way the Most High said, who will have to take on other wives because there are going to be so many women that are coming into this truth, and there are not going to be enough men for these women to marry because of what is going on, the desire to kill a black male. So, just like our forefathers did, had many wives, the ox that are being raised up now, the ox that are already teaching this righteous truth, will have to take on other wives. When we leave up out of here, we're going to leave up out of here in numbers. And there are going to be a lot of single wives with children who are going to need covers to protect them and to guide them. As it says in Isaiah chapter 4, the women are going to say this. Not the men, but the women are going to say. Isaiah chapter 4, and I'm going to read at verse 1. And then I'm going to conclude this video. It says, "For 7 women will take hold of one man in that day, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own clothes. Only let us be called by your name, take away our reproach." So, what is a reproach? Reproach means to have something bad put on you. So we're going to look up in the concordance the word reproach. It's 2781. Reproach. 2781. 2781. Disgrace. Rebuke. Reproach. So to take away the disgrace of not being married and having children out of wedlock, without being married, they're going to say, look, no longer are we worried about you buying us clothes, buying us food. We will provide our own food, our own clothing. Only take away our reproach, our shame for not having a husband. Because in the olden times, it was an embarrassment if a woman could not do 2 things. If she could not have a husband, and she could not bear her husband any children, especially any male children. She was looked down upon if her womb was barren and she could not give children. Nowadays, our women think that it's a blessing not to have children. They will go and have their child sucked out of them so quickly because they become monsters. Found that the heathen people and their customs of murdering children, because that's where they come from, and all these other nations come from sacrificing their kids as well. We followed them. Instead of keeping these righteous laws and commandments, we follow after the heathens, a lower base race of people who have purposely polluted the water, polluted the air, polluted the earth. The United States and all of the United States, all of Americas, Central, South, wherever you want to call Americas, and the European nation, their land is polluted. Their water is polluted. If you look at the early settlers when they came from England, when they came over to Americas, one of the first things that happened when they came over here is they brought diseases with them. And the second thing that happened was they cut down so much land that they polluted the earth. Way back then, the water was so polluted that they couldn't even fish there no more. Because it was polluting everything. They didn't know how to do stuff the way our people did. And our brothers and sisters from Ishmael, the Moors, taught them how to cultivate the land, as well as our brothers and sisters who were known as Native American Indians taught them. But these people were savages. They were savages, and they didn't know how to cultivate the land. That's why they didn't invent anything. That's why all the inventions that we have come from our people in this world. I ain't talking about just in America, because it's traffic lights in everywhere in the world. That come from our people. Walkie-talkies everywhere in the world. Trains everywhere in the world. Air conditioning, refrigeration everywhere in the world. That come from our people, of the Israelites. No other people did that. And to make this point clear, if we were like those Africans in Africa, why did they, who did not go into slavery over there, and I'm talking about those who polite and all them saying we are connected to these Africans over there, and Omar Johnson say, well, how come they did not create anything like we did over here? We was in slavery, and during the time of slavery we created, and after slavery we created. But those Africans been here the whole time after we was taken and put in slavery on the slave ships and brought here, have not done anything. Most of them stayed primitive, and then until some other nationality came over there and revolutionized them. And those who over there now who help build malls and a society over there are those of our people who left from over here and went back over there. So they learned from us. They learned from our inventions, but they didn't create them on their own. We did it while we was in slavery and after slavery. Barely know how to read and write English. We created everything that this country or this world has to function. Why did not our so-called brothers over there that Sinetta, Polite, Seti, Umar Johnson, and all those Pan-Africans and all those Nawubians say that we're connected to, why didn't these other parts of us, so-called other brothers that we put the hand over Africa, why did they not, why they didn't build a society? Why they didn't build monuments? Why they didn't come up with the traffic light and the cotton gin and the steam engine and the air conditioning refrigeration? Why they didn't do that? Because they don't have the same spirit we got. Now, there are Israelites living over there that never made it over here. Scripture says that we'll be scattered to the four corners of the earth. So any society they had over there that was revolutionized because Israel was still over there. The Bible says that we'll be scattered to the four corners of the earth. So we was over there, over here, in Australia, in the islands of Solomon, in China, in Japan, in Korea, in South Korea, in Europe, in France, in Germany, in Russia, in the Middle East, in Iraq, in Iran, in Persia, everywhere you can name in the world, we Israelites are there. Because that was a prophecy, we'd be scattered to the four corners. Everywhere where there is anything, we are there. So, wherever there is technology, it was because our people gave it. And you can do the research and find out who was in them areas. It's not hard to see. We who are the descendants of the Chaldeans from the ancient civilization of Sumer, where the Egyptians got their knowledge because Abraham comes from the house of Sumer, because he comes from the descendants of the Chaldeans, not the Cushites, and so have you believe. The Apocrypha for the book of Judah explains that. So Abraham left out, he was blessed, and his seeds were blessed with knowledge and wisdom. That's why Ishmael is so smart, because that is Abraham's son. That's why the other sons that Abraham had knew how to do things, because they are of the seed of Abraham. But Isaac's children, which we are above them all, with more great intelligence. And yet we can't even use that great intelligence here, because this place is like kryptonite to us. America is kryptonite to us. We are Superman. We are the most articulate, educated, skillful, wise, spiritual people on the planet Earth. But this place takes away our power. So we're migrating our way back over to the areas in Africa that are being set up for us to come back and live, where the earth is not polluted with chemical trails or any pesticides or germicides or anything else, where the water is coming from rocks out of waterfalls, where the water is purified, and you can look and see the bottom of the lakes without seeing brown and blue and all kinds of chemicals in it. The Most High is bringing us back so we can get purified. Zephaniah. The book of Zephaniah tells us that we will not get the name of the Father until our lips are purified. So all these people talking about the name is Yah and Yahoshua and Yahishua and all these other things. Listen, the only name we got is Ayah or Ayah, which was given to us on a mountain. That was the name that we will call upon until we are purified. Zephaniah chapter 3 verse 9. For then I will give to the people purified lips, that all of them may call on the name of the Master. So he said, I will give you purified lips, that all of them may call. So until your lips are purified, you're not going to be speaking his name, because if you are not purified, you will be just like that Aki who touched the ark and died. The ark was falling. He went to go try to catch it so it wouldn't fall, and died because he touched it. And that's because he was not authorized to touch it. To touch anything that belonged to the Most High, you must be purified. It was given to the order of the Levites, Aaron and his son, that they had to wash themselves and be purified before touching the things dedicated to the Most High. So, in order for us to get the Most High name and be able to speak it, we must be purified. For us to get the Ruach, the Spirit, so we can really have the real wisdom of this word, we must be purified. He's purifying us now by bringing back the laws, statutes, commandments in us. For those who keep Shabbat, for those who keep the commandments, for those who keep the feast days, we're being purified. But still we got a way to go. We got to get out of here, because still we eat food that is impure. Still we drink water that's impure. Still we live in houses and buildings that is impure. We had a law concerning how we built the house, and what was allowed to be in our house and what was not allowed to be in our house. We have a law concerning our clothing, how we are to wear clothing, not mixing fiber with fiber. We have a law concerning wearing fringes and tassels. We have a law concerning our dietary law. We have a law concerning how to wash ourselves. We have a law concerning when a female is on her menstrual cycle, she is to be cut off and not to be out in the streets anywhere, because that is the time of her sickness. She's to be in her room, isolated until it's over. That is our law, but we don't have that here. So those who leave here will leave here with those laws in their mind and will keep them in the wilderness. And once they're in the wilderness, being purged even more and washed even more, when they leave out of the wilderness, they're going into the kingdom. But until they purify themselves, start the purification process now, and then go through the purifying process in the wilderness, they're not going to make it into the kingdom, Jerusalem, when it's built. You're not going to make it. You're going to be just like those who go into the wilderness as it was in the olden time when majority of people died off that were old because they had did wrong. And a new generation rose up. So the question to the sisters who say, well, why a man got to have more than one wife is because when we leave here, there's going to be a young generation that's going to be with us. Children will be born, and they are the ones that's going to go into the promised land alive. Majority of us are going to die in the wilderness because of our stiff-neckedness, and those who do make it out will go in as elders. And then once we get a purified body and a glorified body, we're going to be just like we was when we was 20. But until then, we got to go through this process. The first process of the woman is to be obedient unto the Most High first, and then to her husband, because the scripture says that, wife, obey your husband as if he was the Messiah. So if the Bible tells you to obey your husband as if your husband was the Messiah, it's telling you that your husband stands in front of you as the Messiah. That's why Sarah called Abraham Lord, meaning master. So a lot of the Israelite women have a problem being submissive. You're not going into the kingdom. You're not even going to make it into the wilderness with an attitude like that. And if you do make it into the wilderness, what did he say? I'm going to bring you into the wilderness, and I'm going to take my ride over the sheep, and I'm going to weed out all the rebels. So all the sisters who got a problem with a brother having more than one wife, and got a problem with a brother being in control, the Most High is going to weed you right on out. So even if you make it out of Babylon into the wilderness, he's going to weed you out and cut you off and destroy you. All the brothers, they got a problem with doing it the Most High's will, the way the Most High says doing it. The brothers who got a problem with the leader structure that the Most High is going to build and have a problem with the leaders and have something to say about the leaders, they're going to be cut off and weeded out as well. Those who will cause contention and division amongst our people who escape Babylon shall be cut off in the wilderness. So even if you escape this country and the punishment that's coming on this country because it's coming, you still won't escape the punishment in the wilderness as our forefathers did not escape it when they came out of Egypt. This is the second Egypt. You know this is Egypt because it's symbolic to Egypt. That's why the dollar bill has a pyramid on the back of it. That's why they had slavery here, and that's why Pharaoh is going to let us go the same way because we're going to leave. So, what happened in the wilderness? There was a lot of stiff-neck going on. They died out, a new generation came out and went into the promised land. So what I'm saying to all my brothers and sisters now, if you understand the scriptures, where it says that the same way I brought you out of the first Egypt, I'm going to bring you out the north country the same way, know that we're going to leave out the same way. Judah is going home first. In the book of Zechariah, they tell you that. Judah going home first. Who is Judah? Those of us in America and Americas, Jamaican Islands, and places like that. We're going to leave out of here first. And we're leaving out of here first because all of the other tribes look down on us and put their head up against us. So they won't be able to do it. When they see Judah leaving out first, he's going to know that the other 11 tribes are going to see that the Most High delivered us first and loved us to put us in a leader position. So therefore, they won't be able to be exalted over us and look down on us because they're going to see the Most High has exalted us. So Judah will leave out first. And that's why we're making our way right now. For all the Israelite men, you need to be on your grind this summer. You need not to be paying no taxes. You need to be stacking your money, taking them out the bank, stacking them, getting your passports, getting your precious gold and silver, if you can use that, buying land overseas, $20,000 can get you in Ghana a house that is worth $1 million over here. And $20,000 is not a lot of money. And you hustle hard, and you stop buying them Jordans and the PlayStation 3s and all the Xboxes, all the little games and toys and material stuff, and invest in your future of your children and your children's children, instead of investing in stuff that's going to be gone in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months. You're buying sneakers by a designer, Jordan, who don't give a damn about his people. He married a white woman. Divorced his black woman and married a white woman. He don't care about us. Playing video games. Why would a grown man want to have an Xbox and a PlayStation? You a grown man. Grown men don't play with games. When do you got time to play games when your people dying out here? You should be out there ministering on the streets. So, all those who are really serious, I don't care if you are non-messianic, because I believe that if you love the laws and the statutes and commandments, that eventually you're going to find out the truth about the Messiah. To the point where as though you won't be non-messianic no more, because you won't understand. But you have to put into your heart that you're not trying to dispute that the Messiah did not exist, that you want to know the truth. See, when you go with a hard heart and try to search something, you ain't going to get the answers on what you really was looking for in the beginning to justify your hatred towards something. But when you don't have that hatred and say, you know what, I'm going to look in this Bible and I'm going to see if I can prove that the Messiah exists, then you do it with a pure heart for the righteous reasons. And anybody who goes against another brother because he's non-messianic or because he is messianic, you're erring from the true scriptures. Because your job is to be humble and teach those who are lost. If your brother errs in something, be a brother and correct him. And if he doesn't accept correction, then you did your job. But calling somebody out their name is unacceptable. And I say this to all the ox, and I'm going to look towards the camera. I've been in the truth 11 years, and before I came into the truth, I was a man, and I'm a man now. If any of you feel that you can't talk to me in a respectful manner, because I will talk to you in a respectful manner, and you feel as though you want to disrespect me in any kind of way, know that I get around this country, and I know a lot of ox and Codys all across the world, and eventually we'll meet up. And then I'll let you say all the things that you say on Facebook to my face. And this is not a threat, this is a warning. Because a threat is being out evil and hostile. A warning is righteous. As scriptures tell you that when you warn somebody, it's righteous. So I'm warning you. If you have a problem with me being, messianic, then come to me humble like a brother and say, well, I don't understand this, that, or other, but to you be your way and to me be my way. And we can just deal with the law, statutes, commandments. And I pray for you and you pray for me. But if you come at me contrary to love and brotherly love, then I am going to do exactly what you asked me to do. Because the scripture says, do unto your brother as you would have them do unto you. You've been warned, and I'm going to say it again. To all you sisters, if you can't get this understanding, don't try to come back my neck because you're mad, because a man has a position that you feel as though he don't have. Whatever you feel, take it to the Most High and see what he say about it. Don't try to say, we men trying to do this and that, because if you look at who's been raising the children for the last 50 years, it's been the women. And under your rulership and leadership, we have more men incarcerated in prison than any time ever. More children have been aborted than any time ever. So don't say anything about a man until you can look at what your role in destroying our black community has done. By you lying to the police and saying that your husband beat you because you mad at him because he don't want you no more, and getting him locked up or getting him killed And you know a lot of y'all have done that. So you cannot continue to be mad at men if they have never been in the home and they have never ever once been in to raise their children. You can't be mad at how the children come out because you raised them. You and the TV and the schools. So whatever you allowed your children to indulge in while you was working for the man and while you was having your freedom and not being under the bondage of the man, you done it. You can't blame no man. If a man is not in the home and he's not the one that's teaching the child to watch Maury Poker Show and Jerry Springer and all those other things, then the one that is at home who allowed the children to do it is to blame. I hear a lot of blame on the men that are absentee fathers. If they absentees, then why did you even sleep with these men or open your legs up to these men if they weren't righteous? The Bible clearly tells you that when a woman gets married, she gets married because her father gives her all to a man who pursues her. Women go after men on their own. And then you go after men for all the wrong reasons, or because he's cute, or he got nice hair, or he got nice eyes, or he's light skinned, or this, that, and the other, or he drives a nice car, or he's a thug. And so you're going to get what you went after. It's not the righteous order for a woman to seek after a man. It's the righteous order for a man to see a woman, her family, her father, her mother, and how she's being raised under the laws, statutes, commandments of the Torah, and see that she's a Yah or a godly fearing woman, and then he goes to the father and say, I want to take your daughter as my wife. What is the dowry? What do you want in exchange for your daughter? And he gives the price, and then y'all get married, and then y'all consummate y'all married after y'all become engaged or consummate y'all married. But no, you women don't want to be under elders. Y'all talking about y'all that's in the truth. Y'all don't want to be under elders. Y'all go on Facebook, you see all these Akis on there dressed in the Hebrew garb. You think these dudes are cute. You're doing the same thing you did when you went out in the world, picking men who look good, but not good inside. And then when you do get a good man, you don't know what to do with him because you don't know what a good man is. So, a lot of stuff right here come out these women's mouths. A lot of problems y'all have is because y'all still operate without obedience. Learn what the scripture says on how to get a man. Meaning, let your elders inside of your communities where you go to worship at pick a man for you that he knows that is proven that he is a Yah-fearing man. That he goes out there and ministers on the streets on Saturday. That he spends time with the youth. That he stays in the scriptures and reading. That he loves, his people. And he's dedicated to the Most High. That's the man that you want, because that man, whether you got children by him or not, is going to love your children as his own. And not abuse them, but help them. He's not going to be a hindrance to you. He's going to be what he's supposed to be, a head and a guide. But no, y'all go after what looks good to y'all, and then when you get this dude, he's lazy, he don't want to do nothing, he don't read the scriptures, he ain't doing none of these things, he gets you pregnant, and he go run on to somebody else, and now you get mad. That's your problem. Stop doing the same thing, stop opening your legs, be respectful of yourself, learn what the Most High tells you as a woman to do. Stop telling what a man's supposed to do. Oh, well, y'all brothers ain't supposed to be doing that. How you going to tell a brother what he's supposed to be doing when you don't even know your duty? Do your job and let the man do his job. By you studying the scriptures, you'll be able to know whether if the brother is doing what he's supposed to do or not, or he allowed to do this or that. You ever listen to Yermiyah, YOSHSHAAILA, Benyahrael? And this is real talk. As I said before, a lot of our young men are being killed out here, and they're being killed for their organs. Their organs are being sold off to the highest bidders. Our hearts, our lungs, our kidneys, our eyes, everything, after we are shot and killed in the streets, they are taking us to the hospital, the doctors are taking out our organs and selling them. It's on the black market. So they are killing our people, they are poisoning our people, and we must leave here, and we cannot stay here no longer, because if we do, we will not survive. We will be a distinct race of people. Take heed to what the Most High is telling you. Prepare to leave us out of here. Be smart. Why would you want to live in a country that don't love you? Why would you want to live in a country that is polluted when you can live somewhere and live cheaper and better than you ever did, and have more than you ever had, and be at peace and not have to worry about if your your children are going to be killed. Because over there in Africa, children don't roam the streets by themselves. Women don't roam the streets by themselves. They have laws concerning women being by themselves. So it don't go that way. Your children will be in a community of righteous leaders. So why keep them here? Do what you're supposed to do this summer, as the ant does in the summer. It works all summer and gathers up for the winter. You must work this summer and gather up for your exodus. You can listen to Yermiyah, YOSHSHAAILA, Benyahrael, and this is real talk. Shalom. With all you're getting, get you understanding.